Length podcast. I hope everyone had a very Merry Christmas. How was your Christmas, Mark?
Yeah, pretty quiet. Just went up north to spend time with my partner's family, did some snorkeling, some kayaking, some paddleboarding, jumped off a bridge. Yeah, just all the water.
You would have deserved your Christmas dinner then.
I certainly did. I've still got wrinkly skin from the amount of times I spent in the water, but that could also be a sign of older age. So, yet to confirm that one. Hopefully, that goes away over the next few days. How was your Christmas? What did you get up to?
It was very good. It was very quiet. I just hang out with my family as well. We played some giant dominoes.
Sweet.
And I was the champion one time. I had lots of drinks.
How giant are the dominoes? Were they like the chess pieces in Harry Potter type dominoes, or
a little bit smaller?
Ah, okay, just a little bit
smaller, but bigger than a standard domino size.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's very exciting. But we are here to talk about cricket because it's cricket season. It's really kicking off now. We've got so many games going on. SuperSmash, Ashes, BlackCaps, Big Bash, and the Kiwis are back this week.
Yeah, BlackCaps take on Bangladesh on New Year's Eve, I believe.
I feel like we didn't do that very right. Let's do that again. The BlackCaps are back this week.
And they're taking on Bangladesh.
Woohoo!
Woo!
There we go. Let's go.
Let's get excited.
Let's get excited. All right, if you are going down, that test kicks off in Tauranga on the 1st, and we thought, just to remind you, it has been a long time since test cricket has been played in New Zealand, so to remind you what you need to do if you're going to spend 5 days at the cricket. Don't forget, take some sunscreen, take a hat. Take
a water bottle to refill.
Yes, that is a trick. A lot of people don't know that every single ground in New Zealand will have a refillable, or taps to refill your water bottle. Or you can refill your beer cup if you wish.
You can definitely do. You can hide some gin in your refillable water bottle.
No, you can't.
You definitely can't do that. Now, take your water bottle to refill. You need to stay hydrated, especially if you're going to Tauranga, because the mount is very open and it gets very hot, as we figured out last year. So yeah, take the water bottle. Don't keep buying water bottles that are plastic because they end up in the ocean. They kill the fish, which will in turn kill us. Take food. Take a big picnic basket unless you're rich and you can afford the vendors because they're not cheap. So
another thing people don't know is you can take in any food as long as it's not branded. So you can take in sandwiches and chips and lollies and maybe not chocolate because that'll probably melt. But anything like that, lots of fruit.
Get yourself to the local supermarket the morning of the game. Just make yourself a massive picnic hamper.
Well, and there'll be heaps of people there, so you can always make friends with people around you. We did that last year. Now, do watch out though, because there might be someone who's going to try and make you do what's called the Bay Oval lap. That's where you're supposed to run around the outside.
That's
we
pretty
managed
rough.
to get. We got out of it last year, but watch out for those guys.
They will get you to do it as well, and it does become a big thing. I think it was on telly last year.
It was on telly. If I see it, I will be down there. If I see it on the 2 days I'm down there, I'll try get them on.
Wake off that Christmas food. The next one that we've got is one that Renee's got. Now, she said let the kids get autographs. However, if you were at the Mount Maunganui test match last year in between Christmas and New Year, you'll notice that the kids didn't really get that many autographs because a certain Renee pushed all the kids out of the way to get the autographs.
I only got one autograph last year at the Boxing Day test. It was from Trent Boult. All the other kids had gone first, and I have to admit I did trick Trent Boult into signing the first 11 of Pretty Boys because I'd only put about 3 names in, and I was like, "Can you sign my book?" And he did it, and then he went, "What is this?" And I was like,
I like how you reverted back to being I like how you reverted back to a child and all the other kids went first and then I got to go, as opposed to all the kids went first and then my adult self got to join the queue. All the other kids went first, I promise.
They did. All the kids went first. Now I didn't get Carl Jamieson or Neil Wagner. I let the kids get those ones. So maybe this year
summer.
I'll just
steal
a kid and the kid can do it for me.
Yeah, careful again of the police. It's every episode I reckon we're going to get the police on you at some point. The next one we've got, learn the songs. You spend a lot of time at the cricket. Everybody has a few refreshments during the day, generally towards the latter afternoon. So, songs are being sung, especially if you are going to watch England, for example, which obviously won't be happening this year. But yeah, New Zealand's got their own few songs about the players, so learn the songs, learn the lyrics, and you'll just have a good time.
You will, and let's just hope that you don't support England, or none of the teams do in England, and it's over in 2.5 days, if that.
Tumbleweed.
I had to glance away from Mark as I said that. Well, yeah. That is what you need to do to survive your days at the Test cricket. If you're down there, give us a shout. I'll be down there for a couple of days. Mark's not coming because he sucks.
I have other commitments, unfortunately. Sorry, Fano. As always, we will start off with the sweep, and we will quickly brush over the third Ashes test, because it was just 3 days. We were going to do a review.
Days,
no, sorry, it wasn't.
2 days.
2.1 days. 2 days, one session. Yeah, we were going to do a review, but what's the point? Because it would just be a repeat of the second test and the first test. England were average with the bat. They bowled pretty well. They got into it, got themselves back in the game, and then being 4 down at the end of the day, sending in a night watchman who leaves a straight one is never going to win you a test match. So yeah, unfortunately, Australia go 3-0 up. Congratulations to Australia. They have thoroughly outplayed England in every discipline so far.
All I will add is it was great to see Scott Boland in there. I love that Australia had the option to bring in Scott Boland at the MCG at his home ground. He definitely showed he's yet another fast bowling contender for the Australian team.
Well, this is one thing I was going to pick up on, because obviously Josh Hazlewood's been out and Pat Cummins was out. So Jai Richardson came in, took a 5 for. Scott Boland's come in and took 6 for. The depth that they've got in their fast bowling armoury is incredible. So, I think it'll set them up well over the next couple of tests. Whether they do choose to drop Mitchell Starc, for example, or rest Mitchell Starc for a game and bring in maybe Jai Richardson, or keep Scott Boland in the team because he's possibly made himself undroppable, remains to be seen. England, wholesale changes are needed, but they just haven't got the players out there, so it's going to be more of the same, I would imagine.
I think so, unfortunately. That next game starting on the 3rd, I believe, in Sydney. Sydney is a notorious hard ground. I can't see England coming back from this.
No, it's likely gonna. Hopefully, it'll be a draw. That'd be nice if it rains for 5 days. Just give everyone a bit of time off. Yeah, that'd be nice.
Well, let's quickly move on from the Ashes. India are playing South Africa over in South Africa. As it stands at the moment, India are 327 in their first innings. Rahul 123. That was a bloody good batting effort. South Africa bowled out for 197. India batting again with a comfortable lead. Keeping an eye on that game, because we will see South Africa over here a little bit later, later into the new year. I don't recognise a lot of their bowlers, to be honest. I'm really excited to see their bowling attack come over.
Yeah, I was watching a bit of this last night before I fell asleep, phone in hand, and the pitch looked pretty decent to bowl on. It was definitely doing a bit, but there's a couple of new lads in the South African bowling lineup. They've obviously got Lungi Ngidi and Kagiso Rabada, who are two probably standout names, but yeah, the other two didn't seem to really do too much. It was up to Rabada and Ngidi to get themselves in the game, because I think, India were 280 odd for 3 after day 1, and then to be 327 all out is a really good comeback.
Yeah, I had a guy watching that on Boxing Day until my mum turned around and said, "Renee, do you really have to watch 3 different cricket games today?"
And you said, "Yes, I do, Mother."
I do. This is why I'm at your house. Meanwhile, USA are playing Ireland. In the USA, they won 1 T20 each. They are playing out in Lauderhill in Florida, so nice and swampy. Unfortunately, their ODI series is in doubt. The first one cancelled due to a COVID-19 outbreak. The second one has been delayed at least twice. So, very unfortunate, because that's quite an exciting series.
Yeah, it's good for those two teams to get a bit of a hit out, especially for USA. Obviously, they've not really been around too long in the international arena, so good for them to go up against a team like Ireland, who are relatively well established in the supposed smaller nations, or the associate nations, as it were. Hopefully that ODI series does go ahead, because it'll be good to see how both of them do in the longer format.
Meanwhile, the Big Bash rages on across the ditch. They're playing nearly every day, so it is hard to keep up. But the Scorchers are at the top. They finally lost a game recently, last couple games. Sixers in second. Renegades at the bottom.
Sorry, what was that? Sorry?
I said Renegades at the bottom.
Oh,
of the
that was it.
table,
Yes, sorry. I thought
where
that's what you said.
we like to be. We're always at the bottom. Shout out again
Underdogs.
to Colin Munro. Colin Munro is killing it for the Scorch because he's scored 250 plus scores in the past week, showing this is his game.
Yeah, he's a good player. Really making a case to be in that 2020 World Cup squad next year in Australia.
Well, yeah, that's it. He wouldn't probably be in the squad apart from the fact it's in Australia, it's in these grounds. Will he have a comeback? That is, I believe, being played in October, give or take a few months. October, yeah. So you can't wait to see that. And hopefully the Renegades will get a win in the next week.
Unlikely. But yeah, fingers crossed. I know how it feels to be a fan of a cricket team that just can't get a win on the board. So we're in the same boat.
Maybe we should do. Who would win out of England or the Renegades if they played each other?
The Renegades, because they're mostly Australian, and the English can't beat any Australian opposition at the moment. Clearly.
All right, that is yours week. So much cricket going on. We'll bring you all the updates next week as well. It's all happening in Tauranga this weekend. The BlackCaps are finally back. They've broken out of MIQ. They're rearing to go. Now they take on Bangladesh in two match test series. Big news is Kane Williamson will not play. He is out injured.
Yeah, he's still got that elbow injury that kept him out of the India series, unfortunately. I will just point out, in case anybody is listening, the BlackCaps broke out of MIQ legally. They were released. They did not break out.
Sorry.
Just in case anybody...
They were released.
They were released, yes.
My apologies. They have been in MIQ for about most of the year, though, so I wouldn't be surprised. But no, they were legally released. They've spent some time back with their families, and now the 1st of January they are rearing to go, apart from Kane Williamson.
And Ajaz Patel, who's not been selected after a 10-wicket haul, which you kind of thought would be the case because New Zealand, having lost those 2 test matches in India, need to get some World Test Championship points on the board. Bangladesh are obviously decent players of spin, so you would expect that the pitch will be greener than the outfield itself.
Yeah, I think Tauranga is definitely, and Christchurch where they're going next, is definitely a seamers pitch. They're going with Tim Southey, Trent Boult, Neil Wagner, Carl Jamieson and Matt Henry as their 5 pace bowlers. I think you would see Boult, Southey, Wagner and Jamieson playing.
Yeah.
Matt Henry on the side again.
Well, who's your 5th option then? Who's your 5th bowling option then? If that's the case, I can see them going in with 5 seamers and 7 batsmen.
Interesting.
Unless you have Darryl, you probably won't have Darryl Mitchell going at 6 because you've got. Well, you probably wouldn't drop Blundell at 6 because he is your keeper, and you'd expect Devon Conway will come back in at the top of the order.
Yes, Devon Conway will come back, and Will Young is also there as injury cover for Kane Williamson.
So yeah, I reckon you will go with 5 seamers.
Interesting. So you've got Latham, Conway, or Will Young.
Yeah,
then
Will Young or Devon Conway. Yeah.
Whichever way around they do that, and then you go into Taylor Nichols, Blundell.
Yeah, that's your top 6. And then do you play Ravindra at number 7 as a part-time spin option but a batter, or do you just go with 5 seamers in the hope that Jamieson, Southey, Boult, Wagner and Henry, who are all decent batsmen, as especially Trent Boult, as we will go on to in the SuperSmash review in a minute, do you go with the 5 seamers and back your top 7 or back your top 6 to make the runs?
I think you definitely back your top 6 to make the runs, even if you bring in Ravindra, he's not that experienced, so I don't think you could ever sort of rely on Ravindra to get those runs. So you do really only have Ravindra or Darryl Mitchell to come in. That's a very interesting call to play 5 seamers. I see why you would do it.
I think for the balance of the sides, you'd probably be better going with Darryl Mitchell at 7, who can offer you some part-time medium pace, just to give your 4 seamers a rest. Well, not all at the same time, but just to be able to give some of your seamers a rest. Because
Mitchell from both ends.
Bowling 12, but well, I'm not even going to talk about how many balls in an over he could bowl because I'm not the best person to talk about that. And it'd be interesting to see how they make up that side and with the balance of that side. I would expect, or I would suggest maybe that Mitchell should come in at 7. Matt Henry will probably be the unlucky one to miss out in the first test. But then he is Cantabrian, I believe, so he will know that Haglio will pitch pretty well on the second test.
Yeah, you also knowing these pace bowlers, unfortunately, one of them probably may succumb to an injury in the test last year was Neil Wagner breaking his foot actually at that Boxing Day test. So that is when Matt Henry did come in for him. You've got. I mean, we know these players can play, but you do have 3 players nearing sort of 33, 34. They may not survive 2 tests. That makes me sound horrible. I don't want to say.
It really does.
That. I'm accusing these BlackCaps of all sorts of things: breaking out of MIQ, being too old.
Too old to play cricket. Already started off in such a negative mindset, and the season hasn't even started yet.
I'm so negative.
On the flip side of that, you say that
Matt Henry on the side.
Yeah, I think so. Darren Mitchell at 7. On the flip side of New Zealand apparently being too old to play Test cricket, Bangladesh have a relatively young opening pair. Who we expect will open the baton, so they will rely on the experience of the likes of Shakib Al Hassan to just bolster that middle order, and try and get some good runs, and Momin ul Haq as well.
Yeah, we haven't seen the Bangladesh Test team here for a long time. I believe 2019 was when they were last here, New Zealand winning those matches. So it could be interesting. I really like it when young teams come here because you don't sometimes know what you will get. Teams can't do their scouting. So there could be some surprises from this Bangladesh team.
I think you could say that about Bangladesh in any condition. Sometimes they turn up and will play an absolutely tremendous game, and other times they will put in a dreadful performance. So it's one of those where you could expect that Bangladesh, if they bat first, could rack up 400 in the first innings and then be 40 all out in the second innings. They're so hit and miss, but we hope that they will be able to provide the BlackCaps with a good stern test to allow the BlackCaps to see where they're at before the likes of South Africa come over, who will definitely provide a better test.
Yeah, unfortunately for Bangladesh, I think Neil Wagner will be absolutely itching to go. He'll
be chomping at the bit.
Series on the sideline. He will be going crazy. He was probably bowling overs on Christmas Day, knowing Neil Wagner. Yeah,
absolutely. Bowling pies, literally. Bowling pies. Legend.
Pies. All right, so
what do you think the score prediction is?
I think the BlackCaps will win both games. I think there will be a Bangladesh player who sort of stands up and sort of gets a half century up to a century. I don't know who, but I think someone will pull out one of those performances that's like, why can't they get this guy out?
Yeah.
I think Neil Wagner will get a fifer. And I think in the first game, Tom Latham might get a good score.
Okay, yeah.
I think he would be due one. I think Devon Conway will be itching. This is actually Devon Conway's first test, remember, in New Zealand. It is his first test in New Zealand. So
because he was called up in England, wasn't he?
He was called up in England. It will be very interesting to see what Devon Conway does, because I was listening to another podcast with an interview with Devon Conway,
Traitor.
And he said, I know, absolute traitor. It's actually it was actually Logan Van Beek's podcast. So he's a fellow not a fellow cricketer. He's a cricketer for New Zealand.
You just promoted yourself from your job to international black cap. Jesus.
I did. No, so Devon Conway was saying in this podcast he has 3 goals. He wants to play for New Zealand. He wants to make a test 100, and he wants to make a test double 100. Now, he did that all on debut.
I was going to say, he had a pretty decent debut, didn't he?
Yeah, he achieved all his goals. So it will be very interesting to see what Devon Conway can do in this series. I
think he'll be desperately disappointed having missed out on the 2020 World Cup final with his injury, which then left him out the Test series. So I think he will possibly internally have a point to prove, because he will want to obviously show that he does still belong in the not belong in the Test team, because obviously he had a really good debut series, but I think he'll want to cement his place and show that it wasn't just a one-off against what could now be perceived as an understrength or underperforming England team.
Yeah, and I think he knows that Will Young is really on his back. If we know that we need another opening pair, whether that is Latham and Conway or Latham and Young. So you don't want to be the person that comes in when Kane Williamson is out. So
yeah, be a shootout between Young and Conway for whoever keeps that opening spot, and it will be interesting to see, and we will bring you all of that as it unfolds in next week's episode. Now we have the SuperSmash review, and Renee wants to open this because she's put a question. Are you even a BlackCaps fast bowler if you don't hit a 6 to win? Renee, please elucidate.
I sure will. Now, the Northern Brave men took on the Canterbury Kings last week, and I tell you, I have not been on the edge of my seat like that in years. Now, the Kings posted a subpar score of 107. They were playing, I believe, in Tauranga. And then Katani Clark came out and hit Ed Nuttall from the Kings for 29 in 1 over. And you're thinking...
That is impressive.
It was impressive. Katani Clark basically just went 666. You're thinking, this is it. This is it.
Game over. Match done. Yeah.
Game over. Then Clark gets hit and has to retire injured, and the Brave, who were on top, were suddenly about 101 for 9. And Ed Nuttall's come back and taken 3 wickets by this point, on his way to his best ever bowling figures. He basically went from 29 to about 38. So Katani Clark has to limp back on, manages to run one run, like limping down the field, and then Trent Boult, in his second and final appearance for the Northern Braves season, hits a 6 out of the ground to win the match. What is going on? That
is impressive. I remember that came up in the Ashes commentary at one point.
It did.
And they were all laughing about it because obviously Trent Boult, when they played in Australia a couple of years ago, was known for the flamingo one-legged forward defensive shot. So to have come on and be able to hit a 6, and he absolutely pummeled it as well. He smoked it. It was a good length delivery, and it was flat batted over deep mid wicket for 6 to win the game. So that's one BlackCaps fast bowler who's hit a 6 to win the game. But was there another?
There sure was. Now the Stags are playing the Aces. It was a very on-par score from the Stags. Greg Hay with another 50. Very much enjoying the comeback of Greg Hay this season. Now Martin Guptill was back in the Aces. He hit 79. They were sort of going, might happen, might not happen. Ben Horn came out and hit a bunch of 6s basically to take the game away from the Stags. Guptill should have finished it off, but Lockie Ferguson decides to come on and go like, nah mate, I kind of want to win this, and he hit a 6 to win the game.
Unbelievable, setting themselves up well for the Test series, although hitting 6s probably isn't the best thing to do in a Test match, although I wish England could have scored a few more 6s because they would have made a few more runs. But yeah, 2 batsmen. Lockie Ferguson is in great form with the bat at the moment. He scored 28 in the game against the Northern Districts, or Northern Braves, sorry, get their name right this year. And yeah, now hitting a 6 to win the game for the Aces to give them, I believe, their first win of the season, was it?
It was actually their second win, now that we come to that. Now, the Aces took on the Firebirds a bit later, remembering they are still playing catch-up on games. So the Aces posted 130. The Firebirds should have been able to chase that down, but Lister and Ashok both taking 3 wickets each. The Aces winning that game. Now, question here. The Firebirds, last year's winners, previous year's winners, they should be one of the best teams in this tournament, but I think they're really missing having Blundell, Conway or Ravindra. I'm sure they'd love Colin Munro too if he was available. But they're missing having one of those or all of those players in the team, and I think it's because there's no one there with substance, or no one there that can sort of stand and bat through an innings and deliver when it needs to be. Because
definitely
they've got Finn Allen. Look, we love Finn Allen. He's incredible. But he sort of tends to hit about 4 or about 35 plus.
Yeah, he's obviously got that role on a team where he's trying to take games away from the opposition in the first 6 overs. That's his job as an opener. But you're right, I think the likes of Conway and Blundell especially are the ones who would sort of play that Kane Williamson role, I guess, in a way, and just bat through the innings and let everybody else hit around them whilst they go about their own game and just accumulate runs. What we seem to see from the Firebirds is that when those three, or when those two especially, Blundell and Conway, are out, they do lack that sort of anchor in the innings to allow everybody else to hit around them.
And it is a real shame because the Firebirds have one of the best pace attacks in the tournament. Now, it was good to see Tim Robinson standing up recently for the Firebirds and helping them win over the Volts. But he's 19 years old. He's a great player, but you can't put everything on his shoulders. So I think either... I don't want to tell Finn Allen to slow down. But they're going to have to find someone who can have that role, because Conway, Blundell, Ravinger will not be back in this team for a long time.
Yeah. Is Nishan back playing for the Firebirds yet?
So Nishan came back in their most recent game. Didn't actually score anything. Bowled a few good overs though. So he brings a lot of experience to the team, Nishan, but I don't think he's that anchor, because he will come in about 6 or 7.
He's not, but if they are struggling a little bit, you could possibly put him in at sort of 4 or 5 with his international experience and round the world cricket experience, and ask him to play that role, because out of anyone, I think he's probably the best to do it. Could he play that role? I think he could. Will he play that role? I don't necessarily know, because if you ask him to do that, I was just about to say for Finn Allen, you can't ask him to go against his natural game. As soon as you ask a player to go away from his natural game, that's when they get into trouble. Finn Allen would be too tentative, probably wouldn't score too quickly, and then would be panicking to try and get a strike rate up, and that's where wickets come. So can he do the same with Jimmy Neesham? Not sure, but I guess he'd be a better ask to do it than someone like Finn Allen slowing down at the top of the order.
Yeah, we definitely don't want to see Finn Allen slow down, because we love his fireworks. All right, let's have a look at the standings. The Brave are on top. The Kings and the Stags are tied equal behind them. Aces are second to last, but I'd like to remind everyone they are still 1 game behind the other teams. Meanwhile, the women's tournament continues. The Blaze are 5 from 5. Millie Kerr still dominating. She's scoring like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of runs. Though we will give a shout out to her sister Jess, taking 4 wickets in a recent game against the Sparks, and the Sparks.
That wouldn't be a bad game of backyard cricket in the family at Christmas dinner, would it? If you've got Jess and Mealy going at it.
Yeah, let's head over to the Kerrs. Oh no, you'd probably be sitting down to dinner pretty quickly.
Yeah,
if you've got one of them bowling, unless they're in opposite teams. Now the games head to New Plymouth for the new year. That will be super exciting. I love hearing them, seeing them at Pukekura Park, and then next week, hopefully, we will see crowds at an Auckland game.
Fingers crossed. I may well be going to a game in New Plymouth, because that's where I'm going for New Year. That's why I can't make it to the test match. So I may make it to a New Plymouth game. If I do, I will put it on the socials, and if anybody is around, feel free to give me a shout out and I will shout you a beer, because I'll be by myself, because my partner is not a massive fan of cricket. She won't want to spend New Year's Eve at the cricket. So we will see what we can do for you in that regard. So that's the wrap up of the SuperSmash, and yeah, shout out to all the teams that are, especially Auckland at the moment. They've done it hard. They've had a few games. They're playing catch up, but still putting in some good performances. We hope to see some more over the coming days.
We thought it would be fun to do a bit of an Ask Us Anything, so we put some questions out on Instagram and on Twitter. We're going to do 3 questions about us and 3 questions about cricket. And we're going to start with Mark. Do you think England will keep the Ashes at 5-0, or will it be worse than that?
An interesting question, because it is a 5 test match series, so I'm not sure that it can get worse than 5-0. I don't know. I just don't think it's going to be 5-0. I think we've got a win in us somewhere, or the weather will play a part. Yeah, tough one. I don't foresee it getting any worse than it already has been over the first 3 tests. I think England can only get better, and I know that's famous last words because I said that in the last podcast. But I do think we've got a win in us somewhere. But if it's 5-0 to Australia, it wouldn't be undeserved for Australia or for England, given the way that they've played.
Just on that, Mark, someone pointed out to me that, did you know England spent more time in managed isolation than it did for them to lose the Ashes?
I saw that, and it was pretty soul destroying. But I do think that has had a bit of an issue. England didn't get the chance to play any warm-up games to get themselves accustomed to the conditions, whereas Australia didn't have any warm-up games, but most of their players were playing Sheffield Shield before the Test series started. So yeah, I do think England have been very undercooked, but it's also now not an excuse for the performances they're putting in, because they're making the same mistakes over and over. If you'd have had warm-up games, would that have actually made a difference if you keep making the same mistakes day in, day out, innings in, innings out? So yeah, I don't think it'll be 5-0, but it can't get really much worse than what it already is.
We'll wait and see. Okay.
Question number 2.
Who is the best commentator?
I've got 2 answers for this, and I can't choose between the 2, and it's for 2 different reasons. First one I'm going to go for is Richie Benaud. I just love watching or listening to Richie Benaud. The way that he would describe an evolving Test match as a story, he would pull in listeners, and just his knowledge and the way that he would describe the action on the field, even though you're watching it, the way that he would add to the occasion was pretty awesome. I think most people would probably agree that he is one of the best, if not the best commentator around, or when he was around. The second one I've got is Bumble.
Do you know what? The person who asked this question said the correct answer is Bumble, and I was also going to say Bumble. He's so good. He's so sweet.
He's just so knowledgeable about cricket. He's done it all in the game. He was a player, he was a coach, he was a manager, he was an umpire. He's done everything, and he's just a little bit off his rocker as well. Like some of the stories he tells, when the cricket is boring, he's got that little bit extra where he can keep the listener engaged by saying something funny or telling a funny story, and then something will happen in the cricket. So he's really good at bridging that gap when it is quite slow going on the field.
Now, I do agree he is the best commentator, but I do want to give a massive shout out to Frankie Mackay, who has been killing it with New Zealand commentary in the past few years. It is so hard to be a female commentator and break into this male-dominated.
It is,
It is, So she has been absolutely killing it. I think she's great. I think she'll have a bright future, but she is still playing.
She is. We hope to hear more of her after her career ends, but we also hope that her career continues for a long time, because she is also a great player. So yeah, shout out to Frankie Mackay there. I will ask you this first, and then I'll go through my one. Who is your dream cricket team?
Well, we put these questions down beforehand, and I had a very brief read of them, Mark, and I thought that this said who was your dreamy cricket team. And so obviously my dreamy cricket team is the first 11 of best here in the 2020-2021 SuperSmash. So just to recap, that team is Ben Horn, Dean Brownlee, Willow Tunnell, Colin Tickrondo, Jimmy Neesham, Michael Rippon, Brett Hampton, Peter Younghusband, Will Williams, Trent Bolt, and Ed Nuttall. I do apologise.
That is your dreamy cricket team. Interesting. Fair enough. I think my team might actually beat your team, not in terms of being dreamy, but just in terms of... So I love Test cricket more than I do ODI and T20, so I've gone with a Test team. But I think a few of these could probably make the crossover as well. So opening, I've got Alistair Cook.
Wonderful.
Can't go past him. And
also dreamy.
Yeah, he is, actually, to be fair. He's got a very pronounced jawline, very, very rugged man. I couldn't decide, so I kind of shoehorned Sachin Tendulkar in because I couldn't leave him out, so he's my other opener. At number 3 I've got Ricky Ponting, and at number 4 I've got Brian Lara. I think Sachin Tendulkar did have a period of opening in Test match cricket for India, so that's why I've put him in at number 2, because I can't have Ponting or Lara opening. Honorary mentions there anywhere in the top 4 for Virat Kohli and Mahela Jayawardene. I had to leave them out, and that was a difficult choice. Number 5, I've got Kumar Sangakkara. Number 6, as my all-rounder, I've got Jack Callis from South Africa.
Wonderful, he's a very good player.
7, as my keeper, I've got Adam Gilchrist. Number 8, I have got Shane Warne.
You don't go for MS Dhoni as your keeper?
Nah, Adam Gilchrist, 100%. Revolutionised the way that Test match wicket keepers played a game in terms of their batting. He could take the game away from an opposition and did it more often than not. and was a very good keeper. Number 8, I've got Shane Warne, and Adam Gilchrist is in the team because he is experienced at keeping to Shane Warne. So yeah, they've got a very good partnership. Number 9, Dale Steyn.
Oh, my favourite. Also dreamy.
Yeah, he is. I'm surprised he didn't make that 11. Again, a few bowlers that could have made it in were Stuart Broad and Brett Lee. Honourable mentions to them. Number 10, Glenn McGrath. And number 11, obviously, Jimmy Anderson.
Oh, the most dreamy of all.
So that is my dream cricket team. As I say, mainly a test geared team. I didn't want to waste 3 hours talking about my test team, my ODI team, and my T20 team. But maybe next week we could do a 50 over team, and a week after a 2020 team.
Oh, that would be exciting.
So we've now got Ask Us Anything Cricket related. And I will start with you, Renee. You were asked, why does one player keep wearing all the caps?
Yes, someone did ask me this recently. Now, this is because about over 2 years ago, if you were bowling, you would hand your cap and your sunglasses to the umpire to hold while you were bowling your over. Now, during COVID times, the umpire is not allowed to touch that anymore. So that is why they are now handed usually to the captain or sometimes to another player. And you will see someone like Kane Williamson wearing sometimes 2 or 3 hats. But that is why, so you can no longer hand it to the umpire. And of course, the easiest way to hold a hat is on your head. So you end up wearing a lot of caps. And the commentators constantly make the same joke, Kane Williamson, or he wears a lot of hats.
I have a theory about this. I think that you should give it to the fairest player on the team to give him the most protection from the sun. If he's got 3 caps on.
Yeah, one cap forward and then the other cap backwards. And then 2 more. So
2 either side.
Just DIY a wide brim hat.
Yeah, that's a good idea, especially in ODIs, because wide brim hats aren't really that prevalent these days, which is a shame for the game, I reckon. I was recently asked, why are England so bad at Test cricket but so good at one-day cricket? So I thought this was pretty appropriate at the moment to go into that. So England used to be really good at Test cricket during sort of 2009 to 2013-14. They had a period there as the number 1 team in the world, but they were absolutely shocking at one-day international cricket. We came over to New Zealand for the 2015 World Cup and performed awfully. But we had a lot of test players in that one-day team. So we actually credit New Zealand with being the team that helped us revolutionise the way that we play in one-day international cricket. A lot of focus and a lot of resource was put into building a separate sort of one-day team to the test team so that we could, at a time we had a separate test coach and a separate one-day coach. And we generally, as most teams do, now have separate one-day teams to separate test teams. So the reason that we're so bad at test cricket at the moment is because that was kind of left to one side. At the time that we were one of the best teams in the world, it was assumed that we would go on and continue to be. But given that there's been a lack of resource at county championship level and players coming through because so much resource has been thrown into one-day cricket, the test team is now suffering. So it now needs to go full circle. We need to put the one-day stuff to one side and focus on rebuilding our 5-day test team.
I mean, you do see teams cycle through ups and downs, and I think you're absolutely right. I mean, this is a team who didn't make the quarterfinals at the 2015 World Cup and went through to draw the 2019 ODI World Cup.
I'm just going to Google. I'm sure that that World Cup is somewhere in Lords, which I don't think is in New Zealand.
Let's just skip over that. I think just what we have harped on about this, but what is disappointing is it is the same mistakes being made by this test team, which is what also makes them really bad. Because yes, you can say you don't have enough resource. You've got young players, you've got inexperienced players up against the best team, basically being Australia. But you can't keep making the same mistakes. So as we keep saying, we'll keep an eye on the Ashes.
We will, which actually brings me into a joke that I put out on our Twitter page the other day, which I think would be funny to tell on the podcast. What is the difference between Cinderella and the England cricket team?
What is the difference?
Cinderella knew when to leave the ball. So
Hilarious.
yeah, that was quite an amusing one. The last question that we got asked was, why do fielders do the reverse cup catching technique?
Now, I thought this was a really good question, because if you watch the game, you sort of think, oh yeah, they're going to take their hands and
Fingers pointing down.
Fingers pointing down.
Yeah.
Whereas now they have their fingers pointing up. I am trying to do it as I'm talking.
Yeah.
Again,
I can see it's very hard for you to try and articulate it. So essentially there's two different catching techniques. You have the reverse cup catching technique, which is where your fingers are pointing up towards the sky. Or you have the general cup technique, which is where your hands are together but your fingers are pointing towards the ground. Now, I am a massive fan of the reverse cup catching technique, because if you have a ball that is coming towards chest height, your wrists are only so flexible. They don't go further than sort of 45 degrees. So you can't get your arms into a position where your chest comes over the top of the ball, keeping your hands soft, but also enabling the ball to fully fit in your palms. Reverse cup technique allows you to do that. You can bring it in close to your chest, but also, and I don't know how often this happens, but if you go reverse cup catching technique, if you drop the ball, you can then go down cup with your fingers pointing towards the ground, because generally I used to teach quite a lot of fielding when I was back in the UK, and I would always say that if the ball is above your stomach, you go reverse cup and you can bend down to it. If the ball is below your stomach, you will obviously go fingers down. I just think it gives you the best flexibility in order to take the catch and be able to present the biggest surface area of palm, because you've also got that little ridge where your thumbs are going into your palms. If you go reverse cup and trying to catch down, the ball will bounce off that, because that's quite hard. There's no way to make that soft. So that's my opinion on reverse cup technique, which you may have a different opinion on. I'm not.
My opinion is just catch the ball as best you can, because in my opinion, catches win matches.
I guess that's it. If you catch the ball, there's no wrong technique. Yeah, there's no wrong technique. If you catch that ball and get a batsman out, you can't be criticised for your technique, because you've caught the ball, so it's whatever works best for you.
Exactly. Well, that is the first of our Ask Us Anything little bit, I guess
little
you could
segment.
say. Little segment. It's exciting. We will continue to do this throughout the season, so if you do have any questions, flick us a note. We are on Instagram at Back of a Link, or on Twitter at Back of a Link with a little underscore.
Apart from that, that is us for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, we hope you had a great Christmas, and we hope you have an even better New Year. One thing I would say, if you do want to flick us a question, if you have any cricketing New Year's resolutions, post them into us on our Instagram or our Twitter page, and we will take the best ones.
Yes, and we will be active on those pages as we are at the New Year's test and hopefully the SuperSmash games. Otherwise, I'm always watching, tweeting, talking about cricket. I love it.
So do I. But I
Thank God
need
we
to
do a podcast.
find a little bit more time in my life to get through some games at the moment, because it's a very hectic time of year. So that's possibly going to be my New Year's resolution. But for now, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will catch up with you again next week.